My wife said she was a lesbian while pregnant, but the truth was so much worse. The baby wasn't even mine. Imagine this. Your wife is pregnant, you're planning a family, and life finally feels perfect. Until one day, during an ultrasound, she looks you in the eyes and says, "I'm a lesbian. My mother forced me to marry you." You think it's heartbreak, but it's just the beginning. Because months later, you'll find out the truth. The baby isn't even yours. I'm Evan, 32. My wife. Well, we'll see what word fits by the end. Rachel, 29, and I had been married 4 years. We finally got the news we'd prayed for. She was pregnant. I painted a soft green nursery, learned how to assemble a crib without swearing, and started carrying granola bars like I was a snack paramedic. From the outside, we looked steady. Same church on Sundays, same takeout on Fridays, same goofy selfies with baby name lists in the background. Here's the plot twist that broke the glass. During a routine ultrasound, while the technician was pointing out tiny feet, Rachel squeezed my hand and said, very calmly, "I can't keep pretending. I'm a lesbian. My mom pressured me to marry you." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She just let the words sit in the air like the second line on a test. I remember the soft jelly on her stomach, the heartbeat on the monitor, and the feeling like the room had tilted. I asked when she realized. She said she'd always known. She just hoped marriage would straighten the path. Then she added, "I still want you in the baby's life, just not as my husband." The tech pretended to focus on measurements. I nodded like a polite person nods at difficult news, paid the parking ticket, and drove home with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Looking back, there were small signs I filed under pregnancy fog, the phone that started living face down, late night walks to clear my head, a new passcode after I ran to the store for ginger tea. She flinched when I suggested we tour hospitals together, then said she'd rather go with someone who gets it. I thought she meant a friend. Now I'm not sure. Her mom, Linda, is a force. Think motivational poster quotes with sharp corners. She hugged me at our wedding and whispered, "You'll keep her steady." I didn't know then that steady meant silent. The night after the ultrasound, Linda called and said, "Evan, this is not about you. Please be respectful of her identity." I said I would be. It felt right. It also felt incomplete, like a sentence missing the last word. 2 weeks later, a mutual friend posted a photo, Rachel at a backyard party, hand in hand with a woman I'd never met. The caption said, "So proud of you too." I stared at the screen until it blurred, then told myself to be gracious, modern, understanding. And yet something tugged at me. The dates, the calm, the way everything seemed rehearsed. The first night she packed a bag to stay with a friend. I walked past the half-assembled stroller and realized I'd been building a home while someone else was building an exit. I slept on the nursery floor, next to a stack of tiny onesies, and tried to listen for answers in the quiet. All I heard was the echo of her sentence. "I can't keep pretending." I didn't know then that I wasn't the only one she'd asked to pretend. 2 weeks after Rachel left, I got used to the silence. No morning alarms for her early shifts, no hum of the hairdryer, no "Babe, have you seen my keys?" echoing from the hallway. The house sounded wrong, like it was holding its breath. Everyone told me to be understanding. Her mother, Linda, kept repeating that Rachel had found her truth, and I was supposed to let her be happy. I nodded through all of it, trying to act like I was the picture of calm acceptance. Inside, though, something didn't sit right. Her sudden confession felt too neat, too rehearsed. Then one night, my phone buzzed at 11:42 p.m. An unknown number. I almost ignored it until I read the message. "You deserve to know she's not who she says she is. The baby isn't yours." I froze. Before I could type back, another message arrived. "Check the dates. She's been seeing someone for months. Don't let her fool you." No name, no explanation, just those words. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. My mind started connecting dots I hadn't wanted to see. The walks, the guarded phone, the perfect timing of her so-called confession. The next morning, I called Linda. Her voice came tight and clipped. "Evan, don't believe everything people say online." "I didn't say it was online," I said quietly. She went silent for a beat, then said, "Let it go, dear. The baby is a blessing no matter what." That sentence told me everything I needed to know. After hanging up, I drove to Rachel's old apartment, the one she'd shared with her college friend, Hannah. Hannah had always liked me. She looked nervous when she opened the door. I asked if Rachel was home. She shook her head, but stepped aside. She's been spending most nights with someone named Mark, she whispered. I thought you knew. Mark. The name didn't mean much at first, but I remembered Rachel once mentioning a co-worker by that name, someone she'd been mentoring. I checked her social media, and sure enough, there he was in her old photos. Tall, easy smile, a hand always resting a little too comfortably on her shoulder. I wanted to believe there was some misunderstanding. So I did what hurt people do. I convinced myself to dig deeper. That night, I checked our shared cloud account. We hadn't used it in months, but her phone must have still been linked. Among the random grocery photos and ultrasound scans was a picture that didn't belong. Rachel, sitting in a dimly lit restaurant, leaning across the table toward a man with his hand on hers. The date on the photo? 2 months before her "I'm a lesbian" announcement. I felt my chest tighten. Every kind, measured explanation she'd given me was starting to fall apart. Then came the final blow. A message notification popped up right under the photo. Can't wait to see you again tomorrow. Don't worry, he's too nice to ever suspect anything. That was when the truth finally sank in. She hadn't left me because she was discovering who she was. She left because she'd already found someone else. And the part that haunted me most? That message had been sent exactly 1 day after we'd bought the crib together. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I sat at the kitchen table staring at that photo of Rachel and Mark on my phone. The timestamp burned into my brain like a scar. 2 months before she told me she was a lesbian. Every polite word she'd used to soften the blow now felt rehearsed, like lines she'd practiced in the mirror. I decided I needed to hear her say it. Not a text, not her mother's mediation, not rumors. I needed her to look me in the eyes and tell me the truth. When she answered the door that evening, she looked surprised, then annoyed. "Evan, you can't just show up," she said, folding her arms. "Then invite me in," I said. 5 minutes, that's all." She sighed and stepped aside. Her apartment looked staged, scented candles, a blanket thrown artfully over the couch, everything too neat. She was nervous. "I got a message," I started, keeping my voice even. "Someone told me the baby isn't mine." Her face twitched, just slightly, then she laughed, forced, brittle. "Oh my God, Evan. Really? People are so cruel. Who would even say that?" I held up my phone and showed her the photo. The color drained from her face. "Where did you get that?" "It's from our shared cloud. You must have forgotten to disconnect it." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, quietly, "That's not what it looks like." I couldn't help it. I actually laughed. That bitter, exhausted kind of laugh that comes from running out of hope. You're having dinner with your coworker, holding hands, and smiling like it's prom night. Tell me what it is then. She looked at the floor. "Evan, listen. Things were complicated. I wasn't lying about being confused about who I am. I just made mistakes. Mark was there for me when you weren't. When I wasn't." I asked, my voice shaking. "I was at every appointment. I worked extra shifts to cover the nursery. What else was I supposed to do? Read your mind." That's when she started crying. "You don't understand how much pressure I was under. Mom was always in my ear about being perfect, about keeping up appearances. I didn't know what I wanted, okay? Mark was just convenient." I finished for her. She collapsed onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. It wasn't supposed to go this far. I sat down across from her, forcing myself to stay calm. "Then tell me, Rachel, whose baby is it?" She looked up at me through her tears. "I don't know." That was it. The line I dreaded and somehow expected all at once. I stood up, feeling like my body weighed 1,000 pounds. "You said you wanted me in the baby's life. I guess now we both know why." She jumped to her feet, panicking. "Evan, please, don't leave like this. We can figure it out. I just need time." "No, Rachel. You had time. You had 9 months and 100 chances to tell me the truth." She reached for my hand, sobbing. "Please, I love you. I just got lost." I pulled away. "You didn't get lost. You just didn't think you'd get caught." As I walked out the door, she cried after me, "You're breaking our family apart." I didn't even turn around. "You broke it the day you lied about who you were." When I got in my car, I sat there for a long time, gripping the steering wheel. Somewhere between anger and heartbreak, something else started forming. The cold, steady kind of clarity that comes before you decide to stop being a victim. If the truth was what she'd hidden from me, then the truth was exactly what I'd used to set myself free. I didn't sleep that night. I kept hearing her voice in my head. I don't know. The way she said it wasn't confusion. It was fear. The kind of fear you only see in people who've run out of stories to tell. The next morning, I called her mom, Linda. She answered on the second ring, all sugar and sighs. Evan, sweetheart, I was just thinking about you. Have you eaten? You sound tired. Linda, I said, keeping my voice steady. Do you know if Rachel's been seeing her coworker Mark? Silence. Then, a soft exhale. Evan, you need to stop digging. She's pregnant, emotional. So that's a yes? Her tone sharpened. Whatever is going on between them isn't your concern anymore. You two need to move on. She's still my wife? I said quietly. Linda's patience cracked. She's my daughter, and she's been under enough stress. You've done your part. Now let her heal. I hung up. That was all the confirmation I needed. By noon, I was sitting in my car outside Rachel's office. I waited. And sure enough, around 3 p.m., she walked out, not alone. Mark was right beside her, his hand grazing her back like he owned her. She was laughing, that same fake laugh she used to use when she lied about working late. I watched them walk to his car, both looking around like guilty teenagers. He opened the passenger door for her, and she kissed his cheek before getting in. I snapped a photo. It felt cold, but necessary. That night, she called me. Evan, she started, voice trembling. I'm sorry about earlier. I didn't mean to yell. Mom's been in my ear, and I don't know what's real anymore. I let her talk. The longer she went on, the more tangled the lies became. She said she hadn't seen Mark in weeks, that she was cutting ties with him, that she just needed space to figure herself out. Rachel, I said softly, how was lunch? A pause. What? Lunch with Mark. I saw you. Dead silence. Then she laughed nervously. You're stalking me now? Evan, this isn't healthy. Neither is lying every time you open your mouth. She started crying again, her favorite defense. Please, I don't know what you want me to say. I want the truth. Her voice broke. Okay, fine. I met him to tell him it's over. I was scared to tell you because I didn't want you to think the baby wasn't yours. I didn't say a word. Evan, she whispered. You still there? Yeah, I said finally. And I don't think you need to worry about what I think anymore. I hung up. An hour later, she was at my door, mascara smeared, hair a mess, shaking like she'd run through a storm. She dropped to her knees before I could even speak. Please, she sobbed, clutching my hands. I made a mistake. I swear it's over. I love you. I'll do anything. You said that before, I said. She looked up, eyes red. Then tell me what to do. I'll prove it. I almost believed her, almost. But then my phone buzzed. A new message. A screenshot from an unknown number. Your wife and I were together last week. You deserve better. Attached was a photo of her. Same sweater, same day she said she'd been resting at her mom's. I turned the screen toward her. Her face went blank. The last tear fell before she whispered, I can explain. That was the moment I realized she'd never stop lying. Not because she didn't care, but because she couldn't tell the truth without losing the game she'd built her life around. I stood up, walked to the door, and said, Rachel, we're done. She tried to speak, but I cut her off. Go home. Call your mother. Tell her she won. She left in silence. That night, I started drafting the divorce papers. Revenge wasn't about anger anymore. It was about walking away so cleanly that even her lies couldn't follow me. When you finally decide you're done with the lies, the hardest part isn't signing papers. It's learning to stop looking for reasons to stay. The day after I told Rachel it was over, I met with a lawyer. He was calm, professional, the kind of man who had seen every version of heartbreak. You don't have to rush the filing, he said. But if you want closure, we can start with a paternity test. It'll settle questions you might not even realize you have. I hesitated, then nodded. Deep down, I already knew what I was about to confirm. 2 weeks later, the results came in a plain white envelope. No drama, no build-up, just a single sheet of paper that ended the last illusion I'd been holding on to. Probability of paternity, 0%. That number didn't make me angry. It made me quiet. I remember sitting on the couch, looking at the half-built crib in the corner, and realizing it wasn't waiting for my child. It was waiting for hers and his. I drove to Rachel's apartment that evening. She opened the door with swollen eyes and a hopeful smile. Evan, thank God. I've been trying to reach you. I miss you. I handed her the envelope. Read it. She frowned, opened it, and then froze. Her lips trembled. That can't be right. It is, I said. She backed away like the page was on fire. They made a mistake. Mark said, he told me it wasn't. I interrupted her. You believed a liar because it made you feel better about your own lies. She sank onto the couch, clutching the paper. Please, Evan. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. Don't take everything away. I'll fix this. I shook my head. You can't fix a broken truth. That's when she lost it. The tears turned to shouting, the shouting to accusations. You never loved me the way I needed. You were always so calm, so cold, so perfect. I felt invisible. I laughed quietly. You cheated because I was too good to you? That's creative. She covered her face, sobbing again. I didn't mean to ruin us. You didn't ruin us, I said, walking to the door. You ruined yourself. As I left, her mother called. The voice that once sounded smug now trembled. Evan, she told me about the test. I'm so sorry. We never meant for it to go this far. Linda, I said softly. You always knew she wasn't ready for marriage. You just wanted to make it look good. There was a long pause. Then, in a whisper, she said, maybe we both did. I hung up, feeling lighter than I had in months. The truth hurt, but it also healed. That night, I packed a small bag, turned off my phone, and drove until the highway disappeared into an open stretch of stars. For the first time, there was no anger, no confusion, just quiet. I didn't know where I was headed yet, but I knew what I was leaving behind, a life built on someone else's lies. And this time, I wasn't going back. I didn't tell anyone where I went that night. I drove west until the city lights disappeared and checked into a small motel off the highway, the kind that smells faintly of coffee and rain. For the first time in months, I slept without dreams. In the morning, I called my parents. My mom answered first. Evan, where are you? We've been worried sick. I'm okay, I said quietly. It's over. The test came back. She didn't ask what it said. She just exhaled softly. I knew. My dad got on the line. Come home, son. You don't have to fight this alone anymore. But I didn't go home, not yet. I needed distance, not comfort. I needed to remember what my life sounded like when it wasn't filled with lies. Meanwhile, back in town, the truth spread faster than I expected. Rachel's co-workers knew. Her friends knew. Even her brother texted me out of the blue. Sorry, man. She always pushes too far. Hope you find peace. Her mother, Linda, sent one more message, long and rambling about privacy and family dignity. I didn't reply. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. The next week, my lawyer finalized the divorce papers. I didn't even need to be there when she signed. She'd already packed up her apartment and moved back in with her mom. I heard through a mutual friend that Mark had ghosted her completely after finding out the baby wasn't mine. The irony was almost poetic. I spent that summer rebuilding myself from the ground up. I took my old motorcycle out of storage, fixed it, and started riding again, miles of open road where no one knew my story. The wind didn't ask questions. It just carried the noise away. At night, I read again, something I hadn't done since before the marriage. Philosophy, travel essays, anything that reminded me that life could still be bigger than betrayal. And then, one evening, while stopping for gas outside a coastal town, I met Nora. She was the cashier, freckles, quiet smile, the kind of calm presence that didn't demand attention but earned it anyway. We talked for maybe 3 minutes about nothing important. Motorcycles, coffee, the weather. I left thinking about her laugh. It wasn't love, not yet. It was just possibility. Back in my motel room, I wrote something in my journal. You can't rebuild on the ruins until you stop staring at them. For the first time, I believed it. A few weeks later, I got an email from Rachel. Short, no drama. I've had the baby. She's healthy. I thought you'd want to know. I read it twice, then closed it. No reply. No anger. Just closure. That night, I rode to the ocean, parked near the shore, and sat watching the water until sunrise. When the sun finally came up, I realized something simple. She'd taken a lot from me, my trust, my peace, but she hadn't taken my ability to start again. And that, I decided, was revenge enough. A few weeks after the divorce was finalized, the universe started doing the kind of work no man can plan. I didn't have to get even. Life did that for me. It began with a phone call from Linda, her mother. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Her voice was flat, stripped of its usual theatrical calm. "Evan," she said, "you should know that Rachel isn't doing well." I stayed quiet. "She had the baby," she continued. "Mark's gone. He hasn't contacted her in months. She's trying to find work, but she lost her position. People talk." "She'll survive," I said simply. There was a long pause, and then a sigh. "She said you were cruel, but I told her you weren't. You were decent." I didn't know if it was an apology or an insult, so I just said, "Take care of her," and hung up. Later that night, I got a text from Rachel herself. It was one sentence. "I know I don't deserve it, but thank you for not destroying me." That was her entire message. No excuses, no self-pity. I read it once, then deleted it. I didn't need to carry her words anymore. Meanwhile, my parents had found out everything. My mom said, "You know what I love most about you? You never became bitter." My dad just nodded and added, "Bitterness keeps you married to the wrong person even after the papers are signed." They invited me over for dinner the next weekend. For the first time in months, I laughed, really laughed, without that weight in my chest. My mom cried, my dad poured too much wine, and the three of us ended up watching old home videos until midnight. It hit me then. The version of me that Rachel had built her lies around, the dependable, quiet man who always forgave, wasn't a weakness. It was the reason I still had a life to rebuild. While she was sinking under her own decisions, I was learning to breathe again. I started teaching motorcycle maintenance classes at a local community center, something that began as a hobby and turned into therapy. There's something healing about fixing things, about tightening the bolts that someone else let fall loose. One evening after class, I saw Nora again, the gas station cashier from the coast. She was taking photos of the sunset near the parking lot. We talked for an hour. No drama, no need to explain where I'd been. Just two people sharing silence that didn't hurt. That night, I realized I didn't hate Rachel. I didn't love her either. She'd become like a story I'd once lived through, a painful chapter, but not the whole book. And somewhere between the quiet streets and the sound of the waves, I understood what real revenge looks like. It's not screaming, or public shaming, or making someone suffer. It's smiling again in a life they no longer belong to. It was late autumn when she showed up again. I'd just come back from class, grease still on my hands, the smell of metal and gasoline clinging to my jacket. I opened my apartment door, and there she was, Rachel. She looked worn. Not the sharp, confident woman I once knew, but someone who'd been running from herself and finally ran out of road. She was holding a small blanket in one arm, a baby's. Her eyes were red. "Evan," she whispered. I didn't know where else to go. For a second, the air left my lungs. I hadn't seen her since the divorce hearing. Every instinct I had screamed to shut the door, but I didn't. I stepped aside silently and let her in. She sat on the edge of the couch, rocking the baby. "Her name's Emma," she said softly. "She's beautiful, isn't she?" She was. Tiny, perfect, innocent, a living reminder of everything that went wrong and everything that was never her fault. Rachel looked up at me. "I'm not here to ask for anything. I just wanted you to meet her once." I nodded, unsure what to say. Then, like always, the silence cracked. "Evan, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I thought I knew what I wanted. I thought Mark was. I don't even know. But he left a week after she was born. Said he wasn't ready. And Mom," she laughed bitterly. "Mom told me I made my bed, so now I get to lie in it." She looked at me then, really looked. "I know you don't owe me anything, but I needed to tell you that I see it now. What you were. What you gave. I threw away something good because I didn't know how to love it." I stood there, hands in my pockets, and for the first time, I felt nothing. No hate, no pity, just distance. "You didn't throw it away," I said quietly. "You just showed me how much it was worth." She wiped her eyes. "Can you forgive me?" I thought about it. Not for her, for me. "Yeah," I said finally. "I already did. I just didn't realize it until now." She started to cry again, quieter this time. "You're a better man than I ever deserved." I shook my head. "I'm just a man who learned." When she left, she turned at the door, like she wanted to say more. But I didn't give her the chance. I simply nodded once, goodbye, not invitation, and closed the door. Outside, I heard her car start, the engine fading down the street. The apartment felt still again, but not empty. I sat on the couch, exhaled slowly, and looked at the spot where she'd been. For the first time, the silence didn't sting. I sent a short text to my mom. She came by. "I'm okay." Then another to Nora. Still up for coffee tomorrow? She replied almost instantly, always. And that was it. The moment I realized closure doesn't come when someone apologizes. It comes when you stop needing them to. The morning after Rachel's visit, I woke up lighter than I had in years. I brewed coffee, opened the curtains, and for once didn't feel the tug of dread that used to sit in my chest. There was peace in the silence now, not emptiness. Nora met me later that day at the same little cafe by the water. She was bundled in a faded jean jacket, camera slung over her shoulder, hair tangled by the wind. "Rough night?" she asked, smiling. I told her the truth. "My ex stopped by. It wasn't bad. Just final." She studied my face for a second and nodded. "Final can be good." We walked along the boardwalk after that, talking about nothing and everything. Books, music, old regrets that didn't hurt anymore. She didn't push, didn't try to fix me. She just listened. That's what I hadn't realized I needed all along. Someone who wasn't trying to rewrite my story, just to walk beside me in it. Over the next few months, things found a rhythm. I moved out of the apartment and bought a small house outside town. Old, quiet, full of sunlight. My dad helped me fix up the porch, my mom planted flowers along the front walk, and I started sleeping through the night again. I still got updates through the grapevine. Rachel had moved out of her mother's house, working 2 jobs to stay afloat. People said she'd calmed down, that she'd grown up. I hoped that was true. Not out of nostalgia, out of mercy. She wasn't my problem anymore, but she was still the mother of a child who deserved better than the world she was born into. One afternoon, while cleaning the garage, I found an old box labeled Future. Inside were wedding photos, ultrasound printouts, and a small letter I'd written to my future daughter back when I thought she was mine. For a long time, I just stood there holding it, trying to decide what to do. In the end, I drove to the beach, lit a small bonfire, and fed the letter to the flames. Watching it burn didn't hurt like I thought it would. It felt like closing a book I'd finally finished. Nora and I kept seeing each other. Slowly, deliberately, no rush. One evening, while watching the sunset from my back porch, she leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "You don't look sad anymore." I smiled. That's because I'm not. And for the first time since the day Rachel told me she was leaving, that sentence was true. Healing hadn't come as a dramatic moment. It had come quietly, like the tide returning after a long storm. A year later, the house feels alive in a way I never thought it could again. The porch light hums, there's a motorcycle parked under the oak, and the smell of coffee drifts through open windows most mornings. Sometimes, when I catch my reflection in the glass, I hardly recognize the man standing there. People still ask about what happened. I tell them the short version. My wife lied. I learned. I healed. The long version doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what came after. The truth is, betrayal doesn't kill you. It just strips you bare until you have no choice but to rebuild. And if you do it right, slowly, quietly, you end up stronger than before. I still think of Rachel sometimes, but not with anger. I hope she found her footing, that her daughter grows up knowing kindness and not chaos. Life already punished her enough. I didn't need to add to it. My revenge turned out to be peace. Nora's part of my world now, not a replacement, but a reminder that love can exist without pain. We spend weekends fixing up old bikes, cooking dinners that actually taste good, and taking long drives to nowhere in particular. She never asks for details about the past, and I never hide them when they come up. There's honesty in the quiet between us, and that's enough. Sometimes my mom visits and brings pie. She always looks around and says, "It's nice to see you smiling again." My dad just pats my shoulder and grins. "Told you the right woman would know how to use a wrench." If I could talk to the version of myself who sat crying on that nursery floor the night Rachel left, I'd tell him this. You're going to be okay. Better than okay. You'll lose everything that was built on lies. And that's how you'll make room for the truth. Here's what I've learned, and maybe it'll help someone else reading this. Don't beg someone to love you. If they can walk away, let them. Don't build your worth on being needed. Build it on being whole. And when the lies finally crumble, don't stand in the ruins. Leave them where they fall. Because peace doesn't arrive like lightning. It grows slowly, one honest morning at a time. Now, when I wake up and the sunlight hits the kitchen floor, I don't think about betrayal or loss or revenge. I just take a deep breath, sip my coffee, and think, the storm's over.